What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. Taking a look again at this ice barrier deck, I always seem to find like new ways to innovate it and make it just a little bit better. And I think I've like made a really big difference this time. There's a couple tech cards that you'll see. One of them is I did add a little Marincess package. Now this card's normally searchable wave, and you'll see that I think eventually during one of these duels. But there's also some other like, basically the little N.A.S.H Knight engine, and like there's a way better way to use it than I had before, and you'll be able to see it, I believe, in this duel. But this is like the setup for ice barriers. This is as good as it gets, right? Your opponent has to set spells and trap cards. This is non-targeting removal, and this is an omni negate, and then this ended up being like kind of like an imperm. But your opponent's going to set all these cards, and here's that new N.A.S.H Knight engine. So basically, you get to go into number C104. Now, in order to get its good effects, you have to have number 104. So originally when I used N.A.S.H Knight, I didn't realize that you can attach any number between 101 and 107, I think it is. I was just attaching 101, which is like, spot monster removal as long as it's in attack position. And that's just not very good. But if you can non-target attach like I did, you can actually just attach originally not 101, but you can attach the card that's really important, 104. Because when this card has 104 as material, basically you get to negate. It's a quick effect negate during your opponent's turn, a monster effect on the field, and when that goes through, your opponent also has to discard a card from their hand. It's also worth mentioning when this card is XYZ summoned, it does pop a spell and trap on the field, so that's obviously pretty nice. This is just such a good engine, the Marincess one, because it just comes back every single turn, and that's the idea with Ice Barrier, is that, hopefully your opponent's playing a lot of spell cards. They're forced to set them thinking that they're going to make it to their next turn, but, even though he did survive, I now have this, really good setup, just, having that really good follow-up is just so important. He's going to try to, go to the end phase, and, of course, White's just going to negate. So that's pretty cool, and I think really worthwhile. Now N.A.S.H Knight, the card does get destroyed during that end phase, but at that point in the duel, you're going to be so far ahead of your opponent that the duel is definitely over by then. So I'm really happy about discovering those things. But you also see a little bit more of the Marincess stuff, hopefully in this duel. I don't really remember, but it makes a huge difference. So I'm going to go ahead and normal summon. I control all water monsters. This is just maybe to get me a little bit of follow-up. He does go for Droll, but that's fine. The deck kind of plays interestingly, okay against Droll. Now, in this case, this is not very good. I do have an Ash Blossom, which definitely helps, but this is just non-targeting removal. The Ash, of course, is just really good against Fallen of Alabaz there. He does find Dark Magic attack off the top, but that's okay. He's going to add Dark Magician, but he's going to try to use the fusion spell, and I figure, well, the other card in his hand has to be a spellcaster, and pretty sure he would have normal summoned Rod at that point, so he's just going to blink. This is just easily one of the best forms of removal. So he did have summon limit, but he waited. I guess he didn't really have a choice, but yeah, when this card gets summoned, it pops a spell and trap, so that's pretty cool. And you can kind of see the follow-up here. This card, the new card that I added, is a level 5. It's a free level 5 special summon, which is great because the N.A.S.H Knight stuff is all level 5s. It's just kind of really works out. Now, I also, now in the deck, I run the level 3 Marincess. So it lets you discard a water monster to search Marincess Wave, which is really cool because when this card's sent to the graveyard, it lets you add that back to your hand. So it works out really well in that you just, get to freely special summon it. You go into the link 3 to add Wave, and then you can just, add the one that you special summon to your hand, discard it back to the graveyard. It's really nice. So this card, basically, it's a monster negate and a spell and trap negate. The cool thing about this and, why this engine is so good is, yes, it does negate spells and traps, which is great. But more importantly, it also special summons the clone enemy back to your monster zone. So you can actually just use it again to special summon. It's to a zone it points to, but it has a down and a left arrow, which are really, really good arrows to have, for a Link monster, obviously. So that was pretty neat, for sure. I think this is another one against Droll, but my hand is so good here, as you'll see. Now, I won't be able to grab Wave. If he didn't have Droll, it would have been a lot better, but that's okay. The Dragoon engine, I'm I don't know. I'm kind of ready to get rid of it. I feel like there's something I'm missing, water-wise, that I can use to make this better, but in this case, it looks decently. And always the good thing about this is that it can bring back the Lapis, the Marincess Corral. It's a level 5 tuner, and it's also level 5. All of those things are kind of important. But my opponent can activate spell and trap effects. Also, This, basically is non-target removal. So if he's playing a fusion-based deck, it's just kind of over for him, right? Like, he's not going to be able to do anything here. And that's, like, the strength of the deck. I think I have another one, or maybe I didn't keep it. I don't really remember, but my opponent had actually activated Chimera Fusion, and then I had just activated the effect to, like, use that monster. So he basically blanked on the fusion spell, which is great. And here comes the Marincess Anemone, and this is, like, where this becomes, like, really, really cool. Okay, so, you can go into this, right? It adds it back. I just talked about this interaction. Now I can discard it to search Marincess Wave, and then you can go into, the 4. So basically, this has a spell and trap negate with follow-up if you do end up using it, plus imperm, and I did have an N.AS.H. The triple attack to talents was something I was messing around with, but honestly, a card that I'm not, like, super interested in anymore. And this is great. This is, like, pretty good stuff. Especially when you think about it, like, sometimes this card, like, doesn't do anything by itself. And just, like, having that Marincess card as an option, like, and also just giving you follow-up, like, definitely makes the deck significantly better. This is against Ice Stage, and this is actually kind of a weird but interesting deck. Now, I don't run this card anymore. Like, I've just kind of been a little bit more, build an offensive type of deck, and this is actually replaced with the Marincess card, so maybe, like, you'll see, like, I could have used either or. I think that in the future, this card's definitely going to be a staple, but unfortunately, there's just not a lot of good Ice Barrier monsters, like, in existence that would make the card worth using right now. Okay, so this, like, is a quick effect, negates all, like, face-up cards on the field. So that's bad. Like, I'm going to have to get rid of that. I searched a little bit with Pot of Prosperity, and I can use Small World. Like, you can get really creative with this, and I'm just going to add a Kaiju to my hand. That way I can get rid of this. But this card still, like, will banish the card face-up. So I have to try to find a way to get rid of it while also, like, trying to survive. Again, so I'm going to bounce this back to the hand. This is the new Bryonic monster. It's actually not an Ice Barrier monster, which is, like, so lame. Like, I hope when this card comes out it is named Ice Barrier, but I guess we'll have to see. That would definitely make, like, a huge distinction and make a difference, but I just think it would be silly otherwise. Hopefully this means there's more Ice Barrier support coming out. This is obviously just a really good top deck. Again, this card's good because it gives you follow-up. I can go ahead and special summon, give myself a Crystal Shark, free discard fodder. It's, like, one of the best interactions in the deck. Zujin can come back. I can turn that into Marincess Anemone. And then I can, send this to the graveyard. Do a little level manipulation here. Basically, my opponent can't attack my monsters. I forgot, like, I locked myself into water monsters, and unfortunately, number C104 is, like, a dark, I think. So that was kind of a misplay by me. I should have just, like, kept the N.AS.H Knight there. But it was enough, like, to come back. I thought that was, like, a semi-interesting duel. Like, just the way I was able to accumulate advantage off of just, like, one top deck. And then, obviously, like, a little bit of recursion in the graveyard, too. This is against Monodium. And this is going to be, like, the full end board, which is really, really nice. So I can go ahead and go for Medallion. And now I can normal summon there. This is so good, obviously. I can freely special summon. I can add the Crystal Shark. And I'm just going to get that full setup I think you saw in the beginning of the video. My opponent, just having access to a anti-spell fragrance from the deck, like, is, like, something really unique. And obviously, I can't think of any other deck in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That can as easily access something like that. So it really just feels like it's so close. Like, Ice Barrier is not that far off. And maybe even it's just, like, water support or something like that. Ironically, this is an Aqua monster, so you can use Totally Awesome's effect to tribute it. You don't have to tribute itself. And that's kind of neat, right? That way you can use it again next turn. And I ended up stealing my opponent's Imperm, which is going to be good advantage for me, on the crackback, if it goes there. This is against Mikenko. This is kind of a weird opening. So Small World's definitely going to help me probably get to Revealer, and that's the thing. And the unfortunate part is, like, the whole deck, like, really revolves around this card. If you don't see this, like, you're kind of not playing. But you saw a few other ones where, you can do some other, like, generic water plays if you have the right hand. So it's not all or nothing, and that's really something I'm, like, trying to focus on is, making it a little bit more consistent and the ability to do a few things. And this is kind of a cool end board. Stealth Kragan, Dragite is a once per turn, negate spell and trap. It's either an activation or effect, which is, like, a really huge difference. Also, like, I usually do run Nibiru, so technically you can excavate off the top, and I believe it returns cards to the hand. It's an interaction at least like worth noting. But yeah, another Ash Blossom off the top, and maybe that's a good thing, to be honest with you. I couldn't go for game, but this is pretty much secures my victory here. I don't know what the 2 face down cards are, but they weren't useful before, so I figured, like, I know like he probably had the Ritual Monster off the top, and if those cards weren't doing anything before, like, I might as well negate this graveyard effect again. So pretty nice, I guess. Okay, so this is against Punk, I believe. Yeah, like the thing, like, obviously, of course, like, this deck in the grand scheme of things isn't very good, but there's, I think in terms of like maximizing this, it's kind of neat. Okay, so he's gonna activate Droll. Like, everybody plays Droll, right? It's like Droll and Ash Blossom are the banded by existence. But I can go for Bahamut Shark there. You know, I can banish to get the token, and then I can bring this back. Just hoping my opponent's like playing, I don't know, like Runic or something like that. That would be nice. This card's like super intense, by the way. Like, I think it's until their next turn. So even during this turn, my opponent sets them, like, even if they're quick play spells like Runic cards, they wouldn't be able to activate them like when I start my turn. It's like a true floodgate. It's like really wild. It's like a better anti-spell fragrance in a way. And this is against Rescue Ace, so this is like a pretty good duel for sure. So I can go ahead and normal summon, you know, discard there. He did negate that with Ash Blossom. That's kind of like a low impact version, to be honest with you, especially because I had a good discard. Pot of Prosperity, we'll see what I can get off the top. Yeah, like, I see Medallion, I know I'm pretty good. I'm going to have at least 2 forms of interruption. Like, 2 really solid forms. I don't know if I'm going to go for a Toad, or I may just go for Stealth Kraken. I guess the Omni Negate probably is just a little bit better. And I can go for Coral. The only reason I really do this, because I could have made it before, is it's nice to have Coral, you know, your Marincess Corral Anemone kind of in rotation. Because you can, like, again, I'm going to be able to special summon. And assuming I use this effect, right, I'm going to discard these 2, and I can bring this back with Coral Anemone, and then special summon Crystal Shark. So Stealth Kraken is on the line, like by itself. Like, just N.AS.H Knight by itself sets it up with Coral Anemone, which is really nice. I'm not going to let that go through. I'll take the body too. Why not? And it also gives me follow. Totally awesome. So of course you're like getting the most use out of that card that you possibly can. This is against, I think, against Time Lords or something random like that. But you do have a lot of like untraditional removal. The new Trishula is non-targeting banishment. I talked about N.AS.H Knight like 1,000 times. Like, that card is obviously also does that. So many extenders in my hand, so this is going to be a really good setup. And there we go, Bahamut Shark. You know, sometimes I run XYZ, this like dolphin monster. It's okay. It's like just a random extender that you can get off a Dragoon. Yeah, but look at that. Like, that's pretty cool. Toad, Stealth Kraken, Dragite. Don't go through, like, you know, the traditional line to, you know, stop my opponent from using spell cards, but in this case I think it ended up being a little bit better. I also was able to give myself follow-up too, right? Getting rid of Toad is so hard because it has so many good effects. Yeah, the Kaiju's probably going to help me. I don't have to go into, like, the new Trishula now, like, not necessarily. This doesn't really do anything, right? He's going to bring out Zark, but that's okay. I mean, I'm just going to be able to pop it anyways with Stealth Kraken. He's going to try to use the, I think, Destruction Karma, whatever they call it, but yeah, I do have Dragite. I don't think I can activate the effects of, like, all these monsters, but that's okay. Like, I was able to do, like, cleanup anyways. And that was pretty neat, like, to be able to do that. Okay, and then this last one is just kind of stupid, to be honest with you. My opponent just, like, throws every hand trap in the book against me, and it doesn't really do anything. So there goes Ash. Like, okay, that's unfortunate. I can normal summon Speaker. He just, like, randomly, it's just like click turbo. It's so wild. Why not? Just Droll, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom. This card's nice. It's a free level 5 special summon, so that's pretty neat. So through all of my opponent just, like, randomly throwing that stuff out, and I don't even think the Effect Veiler would have mattered either. And then he ends up Ash Blossoming. He uses Ash Blossom on his own emergence. Now, I had the answers for it anyways, which is kind of neat. But it's just like, what are you doing? You know, it's like, you might as well just ash that yourself, you know. But yeah, that is another look at Ice Barriers with, like, Marincess a little bit, and then, like, the improved N.AS.H Knight engine, like, really raising this deck, like, even more to the next level, which is cool. It's, like, really nice to see. It's one of my favorite decks to play, so I was happy I was able to kind of just, like, randomly kind of improve this deck. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that's going to do it for today's video, and I will see you guys next time.